Welcome to Promote, Profit, Publish. I'm your host, Juliette Clark, and today we're going to have a talk about anthology books with Melisa Keenan. But before we get started, I want to remind you that we have our upcoming training this Friday, October 3rd, How to Humanize Your Marketing, Funnel Fixes. So for those of you who've ever put together funnels and you can't figure out why it's not converting, we're going to talk about 5 funnel fixes with Rebecca Bertoldi. You can register for that at bamagtraining.com, and I hope to see you there. We have a lot going on in October, so I hope you'll take a look at all of our trainings. Today's guest, Melisa Keenan, is a 7-time international and USA Today bestselling author. She founded Hope to help leaders and visionaries share their insights through storytelling, an intimacy expert and a book publisher who blends spiritual and practical aspects of life, work, online with over 6 years of experience. So stay tuned for my interview with Melisa. Melisa, welcome.
Hi, thank you. Thanks for having me.
So I'm excited a little bit to talk about the anthologies that you do and, putting together those multi-author books that so many people are doing these days. So what inspired you to found the Open Heart Publishing Enterprise?
Yeah, Hope, the Heart Open Publishing Enterprise for me was about a compilation of the fact that I run an online intimacy business, coaching and counseling with couples and high-level business leaders on intimacy. And it's so interesting over the years of watching people go through relationship struggles, there was often a similar parallel challenge with visibility or how they led in their companies. And did they let people see their heart or how alone they felt as a leader in their company? And so I was like, I've been doing this forever. And I had already been in several publications myself. I was like, I would love to do this for other people.
Yeah, I noticed you have a lot of books. So how did your first publishing experience in 2021 influence your journey as an author and entrepreneur? Because I know for me, I came from traditional publishing and then I self-published and I just saw the worst business model I'd ever seen. So I'm assuming you had an experience that kind of propelled you into this as well.
Yeah, it's kind of interesting. Actually, my first publication was amazing. And I was so excited because I had kind of written off becoming a published author, at least for the time being, because I'd done a ton of research and I bought several different pre-recorded courses about how to publish or how to contact publishers or just it felt so big and overwhelming. And I was like, why am I going to write a book if I have no idea how to publish it? And so I finally just had scrapped it. And so when I found that as a model, it was like, you're telling me I can just write a chapter, and you have all these experts that are going to take me through the process and do this for me. I was like, I'm sold. And that I didn't really know anything about what I was doing, but that book in particular, the investment was quite high because we were doing a huge marketing campaign targeting USA Today bestseller, which we hit.
Mm-hmm.
So it was really fun. It was actually a really great experience. And many of those authors went on to become my lifelong referral partners and friends and stuff. It was a really beautiful experience. And I didn't know what I didn't know in terms of anything else. So it wasn't more until I got more into the weeds of what publishing really was that I kind of started to see maybe not everyone is running with the level of integrity that I would. There were always a lot of questions left unanswered. There was always a lot of smoke and mirrors. And that was where I kind of started to go, maybe I could do it and I could do it different.
Exactly. So when I started out, I was a little bit of what I would call an industry rebel because I would tell people on the intake, look, you're not going to get ROI from this publishing package. What are you going to do with it to build ROI? And the publishing industry looked at me like, why would you tell people that?
Don't tell people that. Right, exactly. It's like, well, that's true. So they're either going to learn it now and I could help them build a freaking plan, or they're
right?
gonna be upset with me at the end.
Yeah. What's funny is I actually had a coach. I paid an enormous amount of money in 2016 for a coach. And as part of that coaching, I had to hire other coaching. And I remember that coach telling me, like, you can't tell people it's hard. You can't tell people they have to build X, Y, and Z. And I was like, I feel like I must tell them that. And I ended up dumping her as a coach because I felt like you're not going to help me build a business that's out of integrity.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah. I love that so much. And it is unfortunate, like, because as a newbie or, you find a publisher and you think, oh, great. And I'm sure you have as well, heard horror story after horror story.
yeah.
Even with some of the bigger name, publishing houses where it's like they assumed that because they got with a bigger name, that meant that they were going to have some big experience. And then really it still came back to like the publisher on them going, how are you going to get these books sold? Because they're taking up space in our warehouse or whatever. And it's like, they thought that was going to be all done for them. And I'm like, how can you run a business without just being transparent?
Yes, that is so very true. So you talk a lot about blending integrity and magic and love in your work. How do you embody those values in your daily business?
Let's see. Well, oh, it means I get to kind of stumble and fumble a lot and let people see that and be really transparent.
Right.
As an example, I lead from my heart. I lead the way that I am in the world. And so 2 years ago, my family and I left the Mormon church.
Huh?
A huge transition. And I just told a friend the other day, I feel like we're still like air quotes leaving. Like it's been 2 years and it still doesn't feel complete. And I'm not sure if it ever will. It's just one of those things. And so anyway, is part of that whole deconstruction process this year, I had a really special experience where I had a client leave because I had said that I wanted the project to be very diverse and represent a lot of voices. And when she got into the project, she was like, where's the diversity? And she just left as a result. And I could have taken that a lot of ways, but what hit my heart so strong was I actually have not done due diligence to know how to adequately hold diverse spaces that are inclusive and where everyone feels equal. And I don't really understand. And I actually haven't confronted my white privilege. And I actually haven't gone into these places and kind of realizing how much the church really and my Christianity had some biases that were very invisible to me that led to me mostly working with people that walk and talk and look just like me. And so this year has been really, I've just been sharing about that. I've been like, here's what I'm going through. And then with help of many friends that have come my way and coaches and things, I created a partial scholarship program for reserved for people who come from marginalized or underrepresented backgrounds, particularly in the published industry. This is so pertinent, I mean, how long has it even been that like people have wanted to hear from trans folks or or Middle Eastern folks or people who are just doing things different? Like it was the good old boys club until like Amazon and the internet's been like 20 years. So it feels actually so good to get to just say, oh, actually, I haven't done this, but now I'm going to do something about it. And we're going through training in my team around diversity, equity, inclusion and stuff. And all I could do is say, I'm so sorry. And, thank you to the people who have come before, who even this woman who ended up leaving my company, like it gave me a huge lesson that will have a big ripple effect on a lot of people. So,
Okay. What's been your most rewarding experience as a multi-time international best-selling author? And you have, I think, 8 or 9 books. You have quite a few books out there.
I think that the part I actually love the most, all of my books are multi-author books. I've not yet published a solo author book.
Mm-hmm.
It's the connection with the community of authors.
Okay.
So the last book that we did is called Call of the Mystical Mountain, and it's all about Mount Shasta and the spiritual kind of experiences that people have at Mount Shasta. And I always I wait for the authors to come in, and then I kind of like feel into what do they want to create? What would be the most epic way for them to launch their book and have it be really meaningful for them? And they wanted to have both an online party and launch, but that what was more important to them was this in-person thing. So I went to Mount Shasta and we had this beautiful like cacao ceremony and like meditation where it was like we did have a Zoom going for the few authors who couldn't make it, but it was like this will not be broadcasted. It was so important to them that we had this like sacred kind of, closed container. And it was so beautiful. I just tears and tears and tears through the whole thing. It's just amazing when you bring people together and everyone is coming in with this space of courage to share in a deeper way than they have before. And they all have this beautiful, inspiring message, and everyone is like talking about their lived experience. So then it's this very rewarding, like, I had to live this thing in order to be able to write it, in order to be able to publish it and then share it with others. So yeah, I think that one maybe is one of my tops.
Gosh, I haven't been to Mount Shasta since I was a kid. I grew up in California. That's so cool. So, how does Hope support authors in expressing their authenticity, both in writing and marketing? And that must be a sort of a challenge for you because the marketing, you've got so many different people to present their authenticity in the same book.
Yeah. It's really hugely through coaching and supporting the author themselves about like, hey, how are you sharing your story? As they go through the writing process, we're actually doing something new this year where we have a little bit more of like an in-depth one-on-one writing coaching process to help them really pull forward those pieces. And I find that, most often, especially when you're just writing one chapter, and especially if you've never written before, people want to come to that chapter with their entire life experience. And so we really help support them to like, what if we could put a magnifying glass on this one part? Like, how did you feel? And how did you move through that? And then, there's always coaching pieces around like, oh my gosh, but if I tell this story publicly, like my brother or my mother or, which I think comes up with every author. So kind of, help support through that as well. With one of our books that we're working in right now, it's called Embracing Your Eros. And we actually have individuals who are writing under a pseudonym because they're talking about their like erotic journey. So not everyone is like very public about that. But what's so cool is it's like, how can you still be so proud and uniquely shine your story, even though you're not attaching it to your, birth name?
Right. Yeah, that's interesting. And part of that too, so I remember a long time ago, a friend of mine wrote a book and all of us who were her beta readers were like, hey, where's this thing that happened to you? It's like her pivotal story. And she's like, I can't share it in a book. And we actually got her to, and it was the most commented thing the thing that people commented most, but she was very scared. She was very vulnerable about it. Like, people are going to judge me. And everybody was like, that was so brave of you to share. So, sometimes I would say attach a little too much shame to our past that we can't change. It happened and it was there and I can share it, but we always feel like other people are going to shame us the way we probably overshame ourselves, if that made sense.
Yeah. I mean, yes and no, because I also like even in my own journey, I've had family ostracize me for being so public about different things that have happened in my life or in my ancestry. And yeah, my in-laws, not big fans of me. Like,
Are they still LDS?
many of them are.
Yeah. Yeah. I don't know if you know, I live in Utah, so it's an everyday experience here.
I don't think I knew that.
Yeah, I didn't know about your LDS experience either, so it's very interesting. I too have pretty much left the church, but I still retain a lot of those values. They're good values. They just
Right.
And you get into your 60s, church just doesn't matter as much anymore. No, I think so. For entrepreneurs who want to leverage their books for business, what's your top advice? Because I think so many of us, they want to leverage for their business, but they really don't know how.
Yeah, utilizing, building in a strategic launch and then utilizing your built-in community is the number one way. And I think the biggest mistake I see people make is like, oh, once I hit it big, then I'll tell my people, like, oh, yeah, by the way. And it's like, yeah, it's like, no, 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 no. And so the biggest struggle that I see these entrepreneurs having is leveraging their network. We build out kind of 3 concentric circles around the author. And their first circle, I'm like, who's that cousin that you call when you are drunk and you don't want anybody to know you need a ride home? Or like, who's that teacher that you had that was your biggest cheerleader that you know would be so proud that you're writing? And like, I'm like, that's your first innermost circle. Those are the people you reach out to when you're like, I can't do this. Why am I doing this? And then they continue to build from there. And you know, your outermost circle is like your people in your email list, your people who are following you on social media and stuff. And it's getting everybody as involved as possible through giveaways, through parties. Like, people want to be a part of your joy and your celebration. And there's no better way than to leverage your organic reach first. You know, we've got an Amazon ads guy and we run an Amazon ads campaign for almost all of our books. And he said that there's 20,000 new books a day being uploaded onto Amazon. I haven't seen a verifiable statistic for this, but I'm like, he's in there every day. There's ways that, you know, brands can come in and, oh, they're going to do your $100 a month program, or the people who've been following you for a long time. And now suddenly the book has elevated your clout and their know, like, and trust factor. It's like, oh, perfect. My year-long one-on-one, here it is. And just having those things all built out so that there's, you know, systems and funnels in place for people to come and get closer and closer and closer to you.
Then the funnels are so important. We do a lot of platform building, and that is almost well, I don't want to say that. I'd say probably half of the people who come to us, if they want more business from their book, but if they had actually built the platform, they probably wouldn't have even needed the book because they would have had solid marketing and platform building to begin with. So it's always a challenge there. And I was just going to ask you, what are some of the common challenges your authors face in the publishing process, and how do you help them overcome that?
Yeah, I think I definitely see people wobble through the writing process. So like I said, we built out quite a bit of hand holding through that. And then, yeah, I think it's that piece of like feeling like you're taking up too much space with people by asking for help. So I'm always telling people, like, you not telling your first cousin that you're being published in a book is denying them the joy of being a part of the celebration and being a part of the journey. And so, you know, that's selfish. Don't do that.
I actually like that. I don't know if you have ever heard this story, but my best friend wouldn't read my first book. And we were out walking one day and I'm like, why haven't you read my book? And she's like, because I'm your best friend. And if it sucks, I have to tell you it sucks. And I was like, oh. Oh. So I think there's some kind of, some people have a little bit of fear around that as well. So last question here. How do you help authors weave their book marketing in with their existing business strategies? Because, you know, for so many of these people, they have existing, especially in the spiritual, which it sounds like you do a lot of those books. They seem to always have trouble marketing because they don't know how to express the spiritual in an esoteric way.
Yeah, totally. Or a way that's like tangible.
I think I said that backwards. Yes, taking the esoterical and making it tangible. Yeah. Like,
Yeah.
Because they always think about the problem, but they don't articulate the results in a tangible way of what's going to come from this.
Yep, exactly. We kind of bring in and we do group coaching sessions with our multi-author books. And so we target whatever their issues are as they're coming up. And my biggest piece around all of this is that you need to build in a 12-month marketing plan after the book has launched that weaves beautifully with what you're already doing, but that feels joyful and light. And if it doesn't, if you can't see yourself doing that thing consistently over 12 months and still feeling joyful and light, don't commit to that because you're not going to do it. And sometimes that's about hiring additional support. And, if it's like, I'm actually not that good at being able to talk about what I do, like, okay, well, who is? How can we bring them in? Well, I can't afford, an assistant. Okay, well, who could you trade services with in your community that's your biggest fan? Or I'm always in there kind of brainstorming with them around wherever I see their kind of needs being. And then I like to go and kind of follow each person and just sort of see, like, what are they putting out there so that I can say, I don't have any idea what you do. I've already known you for 3 months. I've been reading your posts and I still can't quite figure out what you do. Can you and that's good feedback, right? So we just try to be really, really real and like tools on the ground. And then, when it comes to like post support and things like that, we actually give our authors a writing guide. And I'm always trying to show them like, hey, everything that we're teaching you in this process could be duplicable. So like you see how this is so simple. You see how this is how you ask your referral partners to share about your book. That's also how you ask them to share about your work. And I just think maybe a lot of that stuff gets sort of bypassed, especially for online business owners. There's not like nobody goes to Business 101 school when you're becoming, an energy healer or whatever. And so you miss some of those like very basic fundamental things like relying on business partners, or referral partnerships. So, yeah.
That is so true. We actually call them power partnerships, and we differentiate that from so many people get sucked into that JV, like joint ventures. And there's a big difference between that click of a joint venture and the relationship that you're building with power partnership. So you're right there. And they get really sucked, and they worry about visibility, but they get sucked into that a click is not a relationship. They don't understand that from the joint venture. So that you call it referral partner, I call it power partners, is very, very important. So if we want to find out more about you or want to publish a multi-author book, where do we get a hold of you at?
Yes, you can come and visit my website at melisakeenan.com or heartopenpublishing.com. They take you to the same place. And I think that that's the last piece I want to speak to is my favorite thing to do is help people who run communities to create their own multi-author book with their community. And that's really, such a powerful leadership point and way of building trust and connection with your community in a different way than you've done before. So, I'll have coaches who are running, a monthly membership, also running one-on-ones. And then it's like, oh, well, where maybe this isn't a fit for everyone. Now they can come and interact with you in a multi-author book where you don't have to do the heavy lifting of the publishing. We do that part. You don't have to know about how to create a bestseller launch. We do that part for you. We teach that for you, but it gives another layer of clout and leadership. And so that's what we really, really love to help people with.
Oh, that's great. Well, thank you so much for being on today.
Thanks so much, Juliet.